Hello RT Thread community, I am Peter Akech and I would like to talk about building Africa's IoT ecosystem using RT Thread. I am an electronics engineer by profession. I currently work at Ampersand in Rwanda. Ampersand is a manufacturer of electric vehicles, two-wheelers for commercial use. I also run a business called Mensa Analytics, where we design and develop electronic systems. We write firmware and analyze data for customers over periods of time. You may wonder why I'm considering RT Thread as one of the building blocks for Africa's IoT. I'd give a few examples so that you can just see the opportunities that abound around. Africa is a continent of 54 countries with a population of about 1.6 billion people, and each of these regions has unique requirements, unique experiences, and unique opportunities that exist in them. I will only talk about the areas that I have personal direct experiences developing products and solutions for. So one of them is the agricultural sector. I have worked on a few projects and products in the area. So one thing is that Africa is big on agriculture, both for subsistence and commercial. And with the advent of a lot of IoT systems, people are more interested in being able to actually monitor their farms remotely, be able to relay data from their farms, and be able to optimize their yield and production to make their farms run more efficiently. This is something that IoT systems are able to do and do it well. A second area is electric vehicles. This is a field where I currently work, and we work on a two-wheeler which implement battery swap technology. This is key because most people would like to run their businesses in a way where they operate as if they're petrol bikes, and therefore battery swap technology has gained popularity compared to charging stations because a swap would take between 1 and 2 minutes to do, unlike a charging station where you need to recharge a battery for a longer period of time. All these areas require IoT systems for monitoring energy, monitoring the vehicles, monitoring the batteries, and being able to provide efficient battery swap technology and charging hubs. Another example is that electric vehicles have taken center stage across East Africa, with Rwanda and Kenya leading the charge. In Kenya, there are also organizations, for example, one is based in Migori around Lake Victoria, where they have electric motorboats for transport, and they also have charging hubs for people who'd like to charge their phones and their home batteries. These are opportunities that exist, and all of these require real-time monitoring. A third area is the healthcare area. In healthcare, because of the remoteness of certain areas, it is cost effective and cheaper to actually have remote communication of medical information, and e-medicine or e-consultancy, whereby a doctor does not have to access certain regions in person, but they can be able to get the communication and the information from such regions. This, combined with the problems in terms of network connectivity, require a redevelopment of our thought process in terms of how we implement IoT solutions to be able to also operate with the inconsistent communication signals and networks. Based on this, I built a system that could be able to operate both offline and online, and could synchronize patient medical records such that a patient does not have to remember their medical history or narrate it to a new doctor. They could use the smart card-like system to be able to synchronize the data when they are treated from one medical facility to another without the need of the facilities to be interconnected. This was designed in collaboration with the Microsoft Insiders for Good program way back in 2017. The fourth main area is utilities monitoring, and this includes energy and water. Specifically in the water sector, I have worked with organizations that required solutions for monitoring large-scale water supplies and also for smart metering. And we developed this using NB-IoT. And of course, RT-Thread was the operating system of choice. Some of my personal experiences between the RT-Thread and other real-time OSs, I would give three main examples. So the first one is using RT-Thread versus using Contiki with the TI-RTOS environment. With Contiki, we were developing borehole monitoring systems for 8 refugee camps within Kenya. These refugee camps, each water tower was pumping about 2.5 million liters of water into each refugee camp. We needed a system that was fast in terms of networking. Therefore, I found the organization already using Contiki with the Texas Instruments CC13 processor. Contiki we found to be very good with very good mesh network capabilities and a very small footprint in terms of the memory usage. However, one of the major problems was that updates were very infrequent, and it also had a very limited middleware. This was a big problem for us because it meant that it was not very maintainable and not really up to date. This is totally different from RT-Thread in RT Studio because it's newer. The repo is more actively being updated, and because of the kind of utilities and packages it has, the middleware is very rich and very easy to use and to integrate into a project. Second experience was with FreeRTOS with KLMDK, and this one we were developing a system for the transport industry. This was a speed governor implementation, and one of the reasons I was brought into the project was because the organization was struggling to decide which OS to use, which processor to use for their new development. The reason was that the stack they already had was not very maintainable, and the regulations that had been introduced by the government, they were not achieving it. They were required to be able to have a system that can transmit data at most every 3 seconds, and when transmission fails for more than 3 minutes, it must alert the transport authority. The way they had developed the application and with the Kyle and using FreeRTOS, it was not possible to actually extend their development. Therefore, I had to choose for them or help them in terms of deciding which setup to use. And based on my tests of multiple operating systems, I ended up again recommending, and we ended up building the whole system using RT-Thread in RT Studio. The two main drivers for that decision were because of the studio. It was built in a way that I was able to actually train someone, one of their staff members, to be able to understand and extend the development I had done beyond the time that I was there. And this was pretty easy, and they've been able to continue using the products and deploying it in heavy-duty commercial vehicles for the last 5 years. The second thing was because of the great networking stack, they were able to actually address the gaps that were occasioned sometimes when a vehicle is on the road and a place has poor connectivity. We were able to manage these gaps by having all the data stored and retrieved in a fast enough method, such that when the logs and records are retrieved or are pushed to the government's server that would monitor these vehicles, they did not find themselves on the wrong side of the law. The third main reason why we opted for RT-Thread was that back then it seemed to be the only platform that could allow us to develop a USB host controller without having to buy certain licenses. We were able to, this was one of the requirements that the government had, in that each speed governor was supposed to be able to actually print out all the conditions and all the logs from the vehicle that have been collected for at least 72 hours. And RT-Thread allowed us to actually build all the drivers that were necessary to be able to do this without a host computer. So the main reason why we chose it was because the studio was very well laid out. The drivers and the packages were very well set up, and the setup itself of the studio and tools to use for development was simple, easy, and straightforward. Unlike our experience with Kyle, where the IDE seems like it was forgotten by the developers. The interface still looks extremely outdated, and there doesn't seem to be any effort to actually improve on it. The third instance was using ThreadX with the STM32 IDE, and we found that ThreadX has very good documentation, and it integrates very well with the ST-Cube IDE. But one of the biggest problems was that it's only licensed for certain processors, and the support is provided through the IDE via MX Cube. And then back then the issue was also the tight integration with Azure. Fine, it would allow for other developments, but Azure was sort of prioritized before it was moved, before ThreadX was open sourced. And this would bring licensing challenges in terms of certain utilities that we needed. And another problem was that it would tie you into a particular ecosystem that you may not be willing to be tied to and be willing to pay for those tools. Then another observation was that some of the documentation we found to be outdated with no indication whatsoever. So you will find that STM have developed, for example, an example code through their CubeMX. When you are building your .ioc structure for your development, you find that there are examples that you can use. But when you pull that example, you find that you cannot build it because it was developed using an older version of ThreadX, and some of the names, function names, terminologies, how they are set up or how they are used have changed. But finding that particular documentation explaining that change, very difficult. This is different from the setup of RT-Thread and RT Studio, because RT-Thread is set up in such a way that actually you can choose the version that you want to use. All that information is there, the change logs are there, all of them are accessible through one place. This makes it extremely easy to be able to set up what you want to use. This is the same as in ST-Cube IDE, but the problem is actually on the ThreadX disconnect because these are two systems that are coming from two different suppliers or developers. So that is the third reason, the third kind of experience why we opted for RT-Thread. One of the key products and use cases that we currently have is a smart NFC-based payment solution, which is currently integrated with one Tier 2 bank and one Tier 1 bank within Kenya. And this system, again, we needed an RTOS that is stable enough, very optimized for IoT development, and the structure is easy to actually onboard any new developer. We've done 3 iterations of this product, and it's going into the market later in the year. And so far, the experience with RT-Thread for all this development has been good. The code base is stable. We are using an LTS version of the RT-Thread, and this therefore means that we are sure of stability of an extended period of time. and that's why we like it. And then the third, one of the other main reasons is because the processor we are using is an STM processor, a U series kind of processor with various certifications required for payments. And because RT-Thread already can use CubeMX generated driver files, it actually makes our build setup again easy, because we can take advantage of what ST have done and be able to pull that information into RT-Thread and continue with our development seamlessly. Another use case has been monitoring water systems. The example you see is a borehole for supplying part of Nairobi. The pumps that are installed in this region pump out between 4 to 5 million liters into the city per day. And we needed something that could monitor the water flow very fast, could be able to connect and transmit that information as fast as possible, and was reliable and stable enough, because the installations are in places that are not very easily accessible, and RT-Thread so far has been able to deliver on that. Another case is when we were deploying borehole monitoring systems both in Kenya and in South Sudan, Bahr el Ghazal. Again, we ended up having to use RT-Thread because it was the only viable option in terms of us being able to deliver on the project on time, and the firmware being as stable as possible. RT-Thread enabled us to be able to implement multiple connectivity options in this region because of fluctuating signal strength. Therefore, we needed to develop our system in a way where both satellite and GSM signals can be used, and the device can switch between the two connectivity methods as fast as possible, depending on which one is available. Satellites would only be visible sometimes only once a day or once in 2 days, and we needed to be able to transmit all the packages we had within that short period where the device is able to see the satellites. The next major use case that we have had is in the transport industry. So I've already explained about the commercial speed governors, which we were able to deploy with RT-Thread. And the other thing was a digital motor vehicle information system that was required to replace the insurance stickers. It could be able to monitor the driver behavior, could be able to monitor the vehicle and location where it is, and be able to communicate that to the owners, and be able to perform other functions including accident detection, driver behavior monitoring, geofencing, and providing restricted access when the vehicle is in a region where it's been allowed to pass or not to pass. For example, at the Kenya ferry or the commercial port where imports are picked by trucks. The system was required to be able to update the e-ink display as fast as possible whenever there was new information being relayed to the vehicle. For example, if the insurance sticker has been updated, or if the vehicle has been flagged for being in the wrong area, or if, for example, an access code has been provided, it will update the screen to display that information. So all these functions, on top of connecting to the vehicle's OBD system and being able to capture real-time information about the vehicle, required an RTOS that is stable, can operate fast, and has very good networking capabilities. And RT-Thread was the go-to solution. The latest project I'm working on is smart agriculture, beehive monitoring systems. This is currently part of the Royal Society of Engineering Africa Prize 2025 cohort, and it was chosen from across Africa as one of the best and most innovative systems. We use this one to monitor beehives and be able to relay that information to an AI model that is able to now calculate and identify the optimal conditions for honey making for bees, depending on the region where the devices have been installed. Again, RT-Thread was the operating system of choice because of the stability and because it can run on very low cost MCUs. This helped us lower the cost per unit because the device targets the small scale beekeepers, and therefore again cost sensitivity is a key factor in terms of the development of such a system. I've been able to observe three main reasons why I'd say RT-Thread is uniquely suited for Africa. The first one is the cost efficiency. Being a free operating system and supporting low-cost MCUs allows us to develop low-cost hardware that still achieves everything that we'd want. One example is the Beehive project I've just shown before. One of our competitors, who is a global manufacturer, sells a single unit, or they sell a single unit at around $300. We are able to get or develop a similar unit at only $60. This therefore means that when it comes to certain regions within Africa, we are able to deploy because our cost is manageable by some of the small scale farmers. Second thing is localized support. Most of Africa and China already have big partnerships that run into years, and most of the supplies from Africa comes from China, especially in the technology area. So there are already channels for development, for meeting the needs, specific needs of most businesses and people in Africa. Therefore, because RT-Thread has localized support within China, and the documentation, part of it is already in Chinese, it makes it very easy to communicate system requirements and development requirements to the China-based engineers, because they are able to understand our needs faster, and therefore we can be able to optimize and deploy systems as fast as possible without too much back and forth that can be caused by language barriers. The third main thing is the scalability of the platform. The structure such that we have the RTOS itself separate from the packages that it can use means that the whole setup is very extensible, and therefore it gives us confidence in terms of using it for all our development purposes. And it is easier to adapt compared to other RTOS systems that we've used as a combination of an IDE and the RTOS itself. Yeah. I will just talk about maybe some of the few challenges and opportunities that can help in terms of getting RT-Thread more widespread, more known within the African region. The first one is targeted engagement. From most of the people I've interacted with, both engineers and engineering students, some have never even heard of RT-Thread, yet they know about ThreadX, they know about FreeRTOS, they know about Arduino IDE, they know about Particle Photon, and this is the opportunity that also exists because through universities and colleges, targeting students with the development tools and development platforms like RT Studio will enable them interact with the RT-Thread and be able to use it for their development. A platform like Arduino is well known, not because it is the best. Personally, I feel like it is very limiting, especially when doing complex developments because of the masking of most of the low-level functionalities. A student who understands development and hardware would most likely use a platform like RT-Thread because it gives them more control. Therefore, targeted engagements can be critical in terms of spreading the awareness of RT-Thread. Then through technology hubs or startup hubs, again, most of these organizations target these hubs in order to build awareness about their platforms, and I believe that's something that RT-Thread can take advantage of. Holding also sponsored hackathons, maybe with RT-Thread branded hardware kits, can also help in terms of spreading awareness and being able to bring more people to use the platform. Finally, promoting multilingual translation of some of the documentation and packages can greatly assist. I know that nowadays it's easy to find packages that have both the Chinese and English documentation in the RT thread repo, but some of the tutorials are a bit difficult to follow. For me, the way I learned RT thread was actually through using a translator, like Google Translator, and being able to get what I needed. I was able to learn. It just took me 3 months, but I've been able to do great developments with this. Not everyone has that kind of patience or that kind of focus, and language can sometimes be a barrier. Therefore, promoting this can really help, even though I know it might be difficult at the community level, but it's something that can be considered. Also consider the fact that in Africa, almost everyone speaks at least 2 languages. I believe they can be able to adapt. I think the main thing will be the targeted engagement to be able to bring more awareness about the platform and its potential in terms of developing the IoT ecosystem within Africa. Thank you.